Alright, y'all, we back with another deck profile, and this time we have a Master Duel deck profile. First time I'm trying this out, but we have the Master Duel DK Meta Weekly 120 top 16 decks right here. But we have the first place deck profile right here, piloted by this guy right here. A Yubel, a branded Yubel deck profile, and I'm gonna just get into the statistics of the decks. So this deck right here takes 1,230 UR crystals or stones to make, and 540 SR stones to make, and basically it's a 60 card deck. So let's get into it. We play one Despian Tragedy. If this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add one Despian monster from your deck to your hand except Despian Tragedy. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one branded spell/trap in your graveyard, set it to your field. You can only use one Despian Tragedy effect per turn. So we have one of those. Then we have 3 Maxi. So this is Master Duel, so Maxi is legal, and there's 3 of them in the OCG, but in Maxi there's 3, so no Maxi in the TCG. During either player's turn, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. This turn, each time your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, immediately draw 1 card. You can only use 1 Maxi per turn. So we have 3 of those in the main deck. 3 Keeper of the Dragon Magic. I believe this card right here just searches adds 1 polymerization. Let's read it. If this card is no more special, you can discard 1 card, add 1 polymerization, normal spell, or 1 fusion, normal spell from your deck to your hand. So basically this searches our branded fusion. You could reveal 1 fusion monster in your extra deck, special summon 1 of the fusion materials whose name specifically listed on that monster from your graveyard in face down defense position. So basically this gets you to branded fusion, another searchable branded fusion. One of the main monsters of the deck right here, Fallen Albaz. We have 3 Fallen Albaz. If this card is no more special summon except during damage step, you could discard 1 card, fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on the field as fusion material, including this card, but you cannot use other monsters you control as fusion material. So basically only this card could be used, and you can basically just use the card your opponent controls and just fusion off with it, and basically go into like a Mirror Jade or anything else, the other Lubellions or the Dragon monsters. So we have 2 Albaz. It's limited to 2. If this card is no more special summon, you can add 1 branded spell/trap from your deck to your hand. If a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent control, special summon this card, and if you do, negate that targeted monster's effect until the end of this turn. So basically 2 effects in one. Basically the starter, it searches out a spell/trap, and also if it's in the grave, it comes back and it can negate a face-up card. So 2 Springer's Kit. If you have a fusion monster that lists Fallen Albaz as material on your field in the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is no more special summon, you can add 1 branded spell/trap that is banished or in your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then place 1 card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. So basically you can fix your hand, or you can just search, another branded card. Basically this is a branded deck, which is branded power heavy with spells and traps. Well, let me see. We gonna get into the traps, see if the traps later. 1 Tropicate Mercury. This is basically a monster negate. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen Albaz as a material quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and negate that effect. If this card is banished, you can add 1 Fallen Albaz or 1 monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand except Tropicate Mercury. You can only use each of the effects of Tropicate Mercury once per turn. So we play 1 of these. 2 Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous. If you control a Fallen Albaz or it is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. During the main phase, quick effect, you can fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck. Use a monster from your hand to fill as the material. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard, you can add this card from the graveyard to your hand. So basically we have 2 of those. 2 Guiding Queen the Virtuous. This card is always treated as a Dogmatica and Despia card. If this card is no more special summon, you can send 1 Fallen Albaz or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard. If a card leaves the extra deck except during the damage step, you could target 1 Fallen Albaz or 1 monster that mentions it in your graveyard except Guiding Queen the Virtuous, special summon it. So basically, this just gets you into crazy plays right here. 1 Bestial Magnemite. Basically it's a big body that could banish a card from the graveyard, a light or dark monster. Let's read it. You could target 1 light or dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and if you do special summon this card, this is a quick effect. If your opponent controls, it's a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster. If this card is special summon, you can activate this effect. During the end phase of this turn, add 1 dragon monster from your deck to your hand, except Beast Magnum. You can only use each effect of Beast Magnum once per turn. So basically, you can use this to just get things out of the graveyard, or if you're playing like a mirror match and your opponent plays BCUs too, if they target a card to summon their BCU, you can just target that same card, banish it, and their BCU will stay in the hand. So it's pretty good. So and they're only limited to 1. So 1 BCU Magnum, 1 BCU Serenade. You can target 1 light or dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and if you do special summon this card from your hand. This is a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send 1 BCU monster, 1 branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard, except BCU Serenade. Alright, so basically it's has grave effects if it hits the grave. And then the dreaded Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. You can special summon this card from your hand by attributing 1 face-up XE monster you control. You can only special summon Gimmick Puppet Nightmare once per turn this way. When you do, you can special summon 1 Gimmick Puppet Nightmare from your hand or graveyard. If this card is special summon, you cannot, let me read again, you cannot special summon any monsters for the rest of the turn except Gimmick Puppets. So basically in this deck, you just give it to your opponent. Your opponent basically can't special summon for the rest of the turn, which is like a auto win or a lock. So, and then you can do it more than once. Not in the same turn, but you could do it every turn, which is crazy. I don't know why it's still legal, but it is what it is. 2 Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. This card names become Fallen Albaz while on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send 1 Fallen Albaz, 1 branded spell/trap from your deck, hand or deck to the graveyard. Apply the following effects depending on where the card was sent from. From hand, you can special summon this card. From deck, place this card at the bottom of the deck, and if it was placed at the bottom from the hand, draw 1 card. And you can only use this effect of Albion and Shrouded Dragon once per turn. So play 2 of those. 1 Chaos Nephthys cannot be normal summon/set. Must be special summoned by its own effect. If a card on the field is destroyed by card effect, except during damage step, you could banish 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard, except Chaos Nephthys. Special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there when the card was destroyed or by hand. Even if not, you can only use this effect of Chaos Nephthys once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 card your opponent control and 2 cards in their graveyard and banish them. Pretty good card for removal. 1 BCU Libellion. This basically make all the BCU stuff come together. Cannot be normal summon/set. Must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by attributing 1 level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster. You can only special summon the BCU Libellion once per turn this way. You can only use each of the following effects of the BCU Libellion once per turn. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. Add 1 BCU monster from your deck to your hand, except the BCU Libellion. During your main phase, you can place 1 branded continuous spell/trap from your deck face up on your field. So you play 1 of those, and these gets your spell cards going, and basically you just snowball after that. 1 Yubel. You take no battle damage from battles involving this card. Before damage calculation, when this face-up attack position card is attacked by an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. That's crazy. During your end phase, tribute 1 other monster or destroy this card. When this card is destroyed except by its own effect, its owner can special summon 1 Yubel Terror Incarnate from their hand, deck, or graveyard. So basically, this just inflicts damage to the opponent if they try and attack, or any like damage or whatever. Spirit of Yubel cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon 1 of your Yubel that is banished or in your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Spirit of Yubel once per turn. When an opponent monster declare an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you can add to your hand or set 1 spell/trap from your deck that mentions Yubel. Alright, so this is also like a pseudo starter. And you can special summon it from your hand on attack declaration. 1 Gold Sart. During your standby phase, after this card activation, add that card to your hand. Banish 1 card from your deck face up. Alright, pretty decent. If you have, we have 1, the grass looks greener. So this isn't legal in the TCG, but it's legal in the OCG at 2, but in Master Duel it's at 1. So if you have more cards in your deck than your opponent does, send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard so you have the same number of cards in the deck as your opponent. Pretty good. If you play a 60 card deck like this deck right here, your opponent plays 40, you'll send 20 from the top to the graveyard, and then you just get your graveyard plays going. Then we played 3 fusion deployment, reveal 1 fusion monster in your extra deck, and special summon from your hand or deck 1 of the fusion materials whose name is specifically listed on that card. Also, you cannot special summon a monster from the deck except fusion monsters the turn you activate this card. Okay, pretty good. One branded in white. Play one branded fusion. We all know what branded fusion does, but this card is limited to one. One foolish burial. Send one monster from your deck to the graveyard. Play 3 triple tactics thrust. If your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, set one normal spell / trap directly from your deck except triple tactics thrust. Or if your opponent controls a monster, you can add it to your hand instead. That set card cannot be activated this turn. You can only activate triple tactics thrust once per turn, so play 3 of those. 3 Nightmare Throne. When this card is activated, you can take one fiend monster with 0 attack / defense from your deck, either add it to your hand or destroy it. Once per turn, with face up Yubel monster you control leaves the field by card effect, you can add to your hand one Yubel monster from your deck, graveyard, or banishment, whose original level is 1 higher or lower than one of those monsters. Then you can special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can only activate one Nightmare Throne per turn, so play 3 of those. 2 branded lost. This card right here is crazy. Your opponent cannot interact with fusion summons. The activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a monster cannot be negated. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add one Fallen Albaz and one monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of branded loss once per turn. So play 2 of those. 3 Super Poly. We all know what Super Poly does. Discard 1 card, fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as fusion material. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card. So basically, you can't do nothing. Your opponent activates this card, it just has to go through, and they can use almost every card on the field unless the card specifies that it can't be as fusion material for any fusion monster that has the material to summon it or whatever. So 3 of those. 2 Call by the Grave. Target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and the effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. So play 2 of those. 1 branded opening. Discard 1 card. Take 1 desperate monster from your deck, either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon a monster from the extra deck except fusion monsters. If a fusion monster you control will be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Okay, that's cool. 3 branded High Spirit. Reveal 1 monster in your hand and send one level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with the same type that has 1500 attack or defense. Then you can apply this effect. Discard the revealed monster, and if you do, add 1 Fallen Albaz, 1 monster that listed that card and its text from your deck to your hand. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, you can add this card from the graveyard to your hand. You could only use 1 branded High Spirits effect per turn and only once that turn. So play 3 of those. 1 branded in red. Target 1 Despiel monster or 1 Fallen Albaz in your graveyard. Add it to your hand. Then apply the following effect. Fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck while banishing the fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field, but it cannot attack directly this turn. So play 1 of those. 3 evenly matched. Basically just wipes the field clean if you only have 1 card. 1 card meaning this card on the field, and your opponent can only control 1 card after you activate it. At the end of the battle phase, your opponent controls more cards than you do. You can make your opponent banish cards from their field face down so they control the same number of cards you do. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. Basically a hand trap sometimes too. Branded Sword. 1 branded sword. 1 branded banishment. 1 fusion duplication. Target 1 fusion or polymerization normal or a quick play spell in either graveyard. Player's graveyard, banish that spell, then apply that spell's effect when this card is activated. So basically you can activate branded fusion from the graveyard with this card. And then we have 2 branded retribution for the 60 card main deck. Let's get into the side deck. No, the extra deck. The extra deck we have 1 Mud Dragon in the swamp, 1 Garura, basically draw 1 when it hits the graveyard. 1 Borload Furious Dragon. Quick effect, target 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponents control, destroy them. I can't read the rest of them, but let me see if I can get to these other cards. I see we have, okay, so we have Titanic Clad the Ash Dragon, 1 of those. 2 Albion the Branded Dragon. 1 Deathspear Quiritus. Basically make all monsters your opponent controls 0 attack during the main phase. 1 Mirror Jade. 1 Lubellion the Syrian Dragon. 1 Granganol. 1 Rembrum the Striking Dragon. 1 Albion the Sanctified. This is the card that brings out Gimmick Puppet. Your opponent cannot be used as fusion material. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Albion and Sanctified Dragon once per turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target 2 monsters in any graveyard, special summon both monsters, 1 to each field. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 4 monsters, the 2 in the extra monster zone and 2 in the central main monster zone. And if you do special summon this card, wow, that's the first time I ever read that effect. That's crazy. And then we have the brand new 1 Phantom of Yubel, which is in the branded deck, which is crazy. 1 Yubel monster plus 1 fiend monster with 0 attack, 0 defense. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by shuffling the above cards from your hand, field, and/or graveyard into their deck/extra deck. Cannot be used as a fusion material. Cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you contribute this card. The activated effect becomes your opponent destroys 1 Yubel monster in their hand, deck, or field. You can only use this effect, the Phantom Yubel, once per turn. So we play 1 of those, and then we play Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever. 1 Yubel monster plus 1 effect monsters on the field. If this card is fusion summoned, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each material used. You can only use this effect of Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever, once per turn. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. At the end of the damage step, if this card battle an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that opponent's monster attack, and if you do, banish that monster. Wow, that's crazy effect. So we play 1 of each of the Yubels, and then we play the Predaplant Verde Anaconda, which is banned in the TCG and banned in the OCG, but it's at 1 in Master Duel, which is crazy. That's why I love Master Duel. Master Duel plays like a different variety of cards. It's its own meta. It's its own, like, you know, whole thing. So that's why I love it. It just creates different creativity. Basically, 2 effect monsters. You can target 1 face-up monster on the field. It becomes darker to the end of the turn. You can pay 2,000 life points, send 1 fusion or polymerization, normal or quick play spell from your deck to the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. Also, you cannot special summon monster for the rest of this turn. You can only use each effect of Predaplant Verde Anaconda once per turn. Alright, and I think that wraps it up for the branded Yubel deck. The first place Master Duel DK Meta Weekly 120 first place deck profile. This your boy YUGIOH. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share the videos. We on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I think we at 800 right now, so we gonna keep it going. So like, comment, subscribe. We out.